Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me, and a huge thank you to Rita for inviting me to give me this talk. Yeah, please let me know where you're tuning in from. I think we can see where everyone's from. That'll be nice. We're having a bit of connectivity issues at the moment, so I'm going to at some point leave the video and then just share my slides with you and kind of talk you through everything, just so we don't have any weird gaps or anything like that. So I think Rita, are you able to share the slides now, or I can, or if you can accept my computer in, then I can share the slides through there. Okay. Let's just check if that's working. Share screen. Oh, sorry, we're having problems with this. Okay, hang on 1 second. Sorry everyone. Okay, gosh, sorry about this. Hopefully it will all be worth it and you'll learn something about SEO and content and writing for SEO. I'll just share my screen now. Let me find the link. Okay, Rita, are you able to just quickly let my laptop in again? Okay, perfect. And then this should be fine. Okay. Are we sharing? Yes, perfect. Okay, great. So 5 tips for SEO content. I've just turned off my video now so we can make sure that see what's going on. So why is it important to consider SEO when you're writing your content? So firstly, over 1 billion people search Google every year, so you're almost guaranteed to have some customers in there, and to be able to find your ideal clients through Google. Also, 51% of website traffic comes from organic search, so it comes through search engines, and that's just globally of any traffic to any website, which is just amazing. 40% of revenue is generated by organic traffic. So, you know, that means that there's a huge potential market for you there and a huge potential to kind of increase your revenue and your bottom line. And then 130 trillion web pages are crawled by Google every year. So, you know, there's definitely competition for all of those customers and all of that money coming through Google. But you know, if you write the right content and you write content that really engages your customers and helps them understand why your product is right for you, then, you know, you can really stand out and out from all those 130 trillion other web pages. So a bit about me. I founded the business 7 years ago. I was working for a travel company. And I just had too many clients, and I kind of found some writers, and the idea for my freelance network was born. We've now got over 150 freelance writers that work for us, which means we can find someone with a specialism in anything, from tech to travel, and everything in between. And it also means we can scale our content quite quickly, so we can rewrite websites very quickly. For last year, for our customers, we increased conversion by over 102%. And we increased the website traffic by 120%. And then you can just see some of the clients that we've worked with in the past. So my 5 tips for SEO content are: 1, to research your audience, so find out who wants to read your content, who wants to buy your product, and what they might be reading, what they'd connect with, and what they're interested in. Number 2 is keyword research, so understanding what it is that Google's looking for, what are people searching for, and where are those gaps that you can really make your mark and kind of find new clients and write content to bring people onto your website. Number 3 is readability. So, there's no point in writing content just for a search engine. You really need to focus on readability as well. And clients very often ask me whether it's more important to write for search engines, or if it's better to write for your customers. And I would say always write with your customer in mind. I think there's no point in getting somebody onto your website if they're not then going to engage with the content and convert and use that content to persuade them to buy something. And also, Google changes its algorithms all the time. So even if you're writing for Google, at some point, that your customers are going to that Google's going to change its algorithm to suit what people want to read more. So if you're going the way of what people want to read, then you're always going to keep ahead, or at least in line with Google. The 4th point is structure. So it's really important to signal not only to Google what the important parts of your content are and what it should be picking up, but also to your customers. It's really, I think now we read the web, we sort of scan it, and we're very used to that way of reading now. So, your headline and your introduction, and then breaking your content down, are really, really important ways to keep people engaged and make sure you're kind of feeding them that information in a way that they're used to seeing. And then my 5th tip is really something that's quite new, come in the last couple of years, and that's schema markup. So it helps you find what people are asking. So Google looks for EAT, so experts, authority, and trustworthiness when it's crawling the content. So if you can answer questions, you can not only prove to Google that you have all these 3 things, but you can also your content is more likely to get picked out and put into the snippets that Google picks up these days. So if you type a question into Google, very often it will come up with the answer it thinks is the best at the very top of the search results page. And that's really where you want to be. That's where you can capture the most customers. Okay, so audience research. So why is it important? It's really important to know what content your key target audience want to read, and what really is connecting with them, and how can you really help them understand how you can help them. You can also then learn to connect your product to the content. So what problems are you really solving for people? What does your product help your customers with? And then ultimately, you'll sell more and increase your revenue if you can connect with your customers. So there's some key ways to kind of find out who your audience are, what they want to read, what they like doing in their spare time, where are those little gaps where you can reach them. So the first is to conduct some surveys. So find out what your existing customers like. You can get a platform like SurveyMonkey, which is really good. And then you can just ask them a few key questions. I'd say the key to this is keep it very short. Offer them something in return, like an Amazon voucher or a chance to win some of your product or something like that. And just kind of make it mutually beneficial. Tell them why you're doing it and be very upfront about what you're going to use the data for. The second one is Google Analytics. So even if you use other analytics software in your business, Google Analytics tends to have the best demographic information, just because they have such a wide range of users and a huge and so many websites use them as well. So this is really helpful for two reasons. So firstly, you can understand who your customers are, where they're coming from, what other things are they interested in. And secondly, you can compare that data to your competitors and see how you compare. So if your competitors are getting maybe a more luxury type of client, then it's really a chance for you to see what are they doing differently from us, and what can we do to kind of match them and get a higher basket value. The third one is social media. So if you already have Facebook or Instagram, there's so much data you can use in Facebook Insights. There's just so much information, and that will really help you to understand a bit more about your audience and what they like to read, what they connect with, and which other brands they're connecting with. The fourth way is to look at your current content. So if you already have some content on your website, it's great to use either Google Analytics or whatever other website analytics tool you use. Just see what people are reading, see how long they're spending on that page, see how many people then go to convert or come back to the site once they've read that content. There's so much you can do to have a look into that data, and just have a play around with it, use some experts and see what they say to do. But yeah, it's a great way to see what's really resonating with your audience. Another way you can research your audience is to kind of look at your competitors. So go on their blogs, go on their social media, go on their websites, and see what are people commenting on, what are people seeming to engage with. Have they done a series? Has one piece of content clearly worked really well for them? And then obviously don't copy them, but kind of have your own take on it and see if that kind of sparks any ideas for content that you could write for your customers. I think it's a really good idea to kind of set up Google alerts as well, so you can just be aware of what your competitors are doing, and just kind of stay in that space and really understand what's going on there. Another key tip is to talk to other people in your business. So if you're in a fairly large business, it's easy to kind of get siloed into, marketing or whatever team you work in. So sales, customer services, finance, loads of other departments talk directly to your customers or understand things that you might not understand about customers. So yeah, it's really important to just sit down and ask them a few key questions and just see if there's anything you guys can do to kind of work together to find out a bit more about what people might want to connect with in your team. And then the last one is just talk to your customers. So if you have a bit more money, you can pay a company to kind of put you in front of your key audience or your top customers, and then you can really get to know them and see what are their pain points, what are the things you're solving for them. If you don't have that much money, in the budget, then if you're B2B, I think it's fairly easy to talk to your customers because they'll already be on the same page as you. But if you're B2C, maybe try to run an event for a few top customers, and then just really talk to them about the business and provide some value back to them as well. Okay, so once you understand your audience, you need to kind of start gathering a bit of data around what do I want to be talking about and what is going to drive people to my website. And for that, you need to kind of conduct some keyword research. So it's really important to understand what your audience is looking for. It's really important to help Google understand what your content's about. And then keywords will ultimately drive traffic to your website. It will be relevant traffic. It will be people that are looking to buy your product or looking for you to solve the problem that they have. And yeah, it will really make sure you get in front of the right audience. So the first thing I do is go to Google AdWords. So if you go to adwords.google.com, you can sign up for an account there. I think you do have to put in your credit card details, but they won't charge you unless you accidentally do a campaign. And then you can go to the keyword planner tool, and it will you can either put in your keywords that you have been using for your website, and then it will come up with some ideas for you, or you can just put in keywords and it will come up with a search volume. And what you're really looking for here is keywords with low competition, but a lot of search volume. So that's the sweet spot, and that's where I would start with content if you haven't really done much before. And then once you've kind of shown Google that your site's quite authoritative, then you can start looking at the maybe more competitive keywords, or the ones with less views that you think might convert better. Answer the Public is another great tool. It can help you find questions that people are asking on the internet. So that helps with the schema that we talked about, that I'll come back to in point 5. So you just go to answerthepublic.com, I think it is, and then they have really beautiful infographics about the way that questions are asked on the internet. So they kind of group them under why, who, what, or they'll group them under more specific. So let's say you type in shoes, there might be a whole thing about questions about red shoes. So that will hopefully give you lots of ideas as well, and help you kind of to really boost your content and make sure you're providing some value to your customers. And then SEMrush is another great tool. So you can pay for it, but there's the free version that will just give you an overview of your site, what you're ranking for, what your competitors are ranking for. It also gives you some competitors there. It's not always that accurate in terms of competitors. So I would also type your competitors' URLs in and just see where are the gaps that you guys could fit into. But yeah, I think it's a really helpful tool. And then if you've got the budget, then I think it's about £100 a month for the cheapest version, and then goes up to 500 or something, if you find that it's really useful for your business. Okay, once you've kind of decided which keywords you want to rank for, who your audience are and how you want to connect with them, understanding how to make your content readable and help it really connect with your audience is the next thing you need to focus on. So firstly, customers want well-written content that they'll engage with. And secondly, search engines put value on well-written content as well. And, you know, it all just helps you create a brand, helps you be authoritative, and helps people see how you can help them with their issues. So it's really difficult, I think, if you haven't written content very much, for me to kind of tell you how to write it, and especially not knowing your brand. So I've just put down a few things that I find really helpful, especially when I first started writing content. So the first thing is an active voice, not a passive voice. So Google is looking for people who are authoritative, and I would look this one up as well because it's quite a difficult grammatical rule, and I feel like it takes a while to kind of get your head around, but basically it just shows that you have authority and you really understand what you're talking about. You're not sort of meandering through a sentence. The next thing is that it likes short sentences, so it wants it to be clear and concise content. So I think if you're writing for a tech brand, for example, just try to take one concept per sentence, and even you could even try and then break that down into 2 sentences. The general rule is don't go over 20 words per sentence, but I would try to maybe keep them even shorter if you can. The next point is to write clearly and simply. I think we very often prioritize long words, long complicated words, and they have their place, but I think keeping things clear and simple, and not expecting your audience to understand everything that you understand, because you've come from years, I guess, of working with this product, so you're going to understand it a lot better than your audience will. And I think if you can just simplify that a little bit and pretend you're writing to someone, you know, a friend of yours who works in a different industry, try to pretend you're writing to them and see, would they really understand this if they were reading it, if they were coming at it from no expertise. The next point is to think of the brand. So if you're working with a technology company, you want to make it very clear and simple. You want people to really understand the results of the technology. And you want to kind of, you need to just take really complicated ideas and break them down simply. So with that in mind, just maybe start with the end user. Think about what is the end result, and then work your way back to describing how it works. obviously, if you're working for travel or retail, or you were describing, I don't know, a necklace or a holiday, you want it to be quite emotive language. So yeah, I would keep that in mind. Just kind of understand what's the product and what's the brand. The next point is just to try and spend time on it. So if you can kind of I don't know, give it, 15 minutes a day of writing is really, really helpful. Read other people's writing that you like and kind of save them, follow them, and try and understand what it is you like about their writing. And try and give it a bit of time. Read it aloud, I think, is really important as well. So if I write anything, I then find it really hard to edit my own work. So if I then leave it and then come back and read it aloud, it sometimes really helps. And I think this also helps you because more and more people are searching through voice search now. So if something does sound well said once it's been read, I think that could be a really, really helpful way for you to be picked up. If someone says, "Hey Siri," and asks a question, your content is much more likely to be picked up. The next one is to just leave time. So, if you could write something on a Friday and then come back on a Monday and edit it, that would be really helpful. It's really hard to edit your own work. So if you can ask someone else, brings me to my next point, then do. But if not, then giving it a bit of time and having some distance and thinking about something else before is really, really helpful. And then, so ask someone else and try not to take their feedback too seriously. I think I struggled with this at the beginning because you put a lot of work and effort into this, but they're just trying to help you. So I think just try not to take it too personally and just take it in. So I'm just going to answer some quick questions. So Rita said, "I'm not a native English speaker. Can you give me any tips on how to improve error rate?" So I would say, if you can, maybe get someone from Fiverr to just read through your content. And if not, again, give it time, read it aloud, because the thing is, if you're not a native speaker, you probably are used to holding loads of conversations in, let's say, English all day long. So you're more likely to pick up the errors once you read it aloud. So I think that would be my top tip. And with proofreading, spend time on it, read it aloud, leave time before you come back and proofread it, and ask somebody else if you can. And it's really cheap to get someone on Fiverr to just proofread your work if that's all you need. If you've done the other steps, then it should be fine, and you've got the ideas, you've got content that will resonate with your audience. All you need to do is make sure the spelling's good. And please feel free to ask me questions as we go through. I've got the list of questions here, so I'm able to answer those as we go through. And I'd like to help people with their specific problems, because content's quite a broad area. So the next is, once you've kind of understood, you've written your content, you've kind of connected it to your audience, you've understood what it is that you want to rank for in the search engines. The next is to structure that content. So structure helps search engines to understand what's the most important content in this page, and what would you like to rank for. So your title is going to give away what it's about, your introductory paragraph, and then all those sections as well. Structure also helps you kind of keep your content easy to read, helps it flow nicely. So and also, it captures the scanners. So I think we all read content very differently now. We're used to Instagram and Facebook, where we just kind of scroll through and we pick up the top headlines of what's going on. And I think so it's very important to capture those people. And if you keep headings and introductory paragraphs, if you stick to what people know content should look like, then they're much more likely to engage with it and take something away from that content. So the structure should be introduction. So introduce your topic, tell them what you're going to say. Make sure you include your keyword or key phrase. This keyword and key phrase should also be at the top of your title. So you need to kind of, let's say your title is going to be something about hotels in Bath. Sorry, I've just had a question about hotels in Bath. So I think you need to have that at the front. So say hotels in Bath, and then maybe a colon, and then say 5 of the best. Then in your introductory content, you want to say, hotels in Bath are known for their kind of history. I think I can't remember what the stone is in Bath that they're made out of. That kind of thing. And then that signals to Google that is what that article is about, and that's what needs to be picked up. The next tip is then to break your content into sections. So just decide, do you want it to be a sort of introductory section, then what's in the hotel, or do you want it to be a 5 top tips, then you introduce why they might need these top tips, and then you break it down into the tips. You could even break these down even further into bullet points or numbered lists. I think people absolutely love these lists, and they work really, really well, especially when people, they don't have a huge amount of time to be reading content. So it just helps them pick out the key information. Subheadings are really important. So now you've broken it down, your content down into sections, make sure you give each section a subheading. And this needs to be labeled H2. So if you're using WordPress, I think you can easily call it as like a heading 2. And then most other CMSs should also have that. And if not, just ask whoever does your website how to kind of make it into an H2. And that's really important. It really signals to Google that you know how to break down your content. And yeah, H2s, it's at least one of your H2s should include a keyword. And then I think what we all forget sometimes is to add a conclusion. So people are reading your content for a reason, and you want them to do something after they've read the content. You might want them to just stay on your site and keep reading, so then recommend some other articles to them. You might want them to buy your product, so recommend that. You might want them to sign up to the newsletter, tell them what else they can get from the newsletter that's similar to this content. And then the final one is schema. So this is quite a new thing, just because people have started to ask Google questions, and Google's really said, right, so that's what we are. We're a question engine. I think it's 8% of searches every day are questions. So it's a huge market to tap into. About 40% of adults use it once a day. So, you're bound to capture at least 1 or 2 people in your key target audience by answering questions. It also means that you position yourself as an authority, which Google likes, and also your customers like. I think, we don't have shop assistants now telling us why we should buy things. And so it's up to brands to become the experts and really show their customers that they're solving a problem and they know what their product does to help their customers. And it can obviously get you to the top of the results page. So in the snippets that Google picks out now for schema, it kind of finds the answer that it thinks is the best to a question, and then it puts that to the top of the search results page. And if you want to do that, I would just type in a few questions to Google and then wait for one to come up. It does it for most important questions, I think. And then underneath that, you'll see a lot more questions coming up. So that's a great way to kind of build out your content and answer some more questions. Sorry, I just had another question. If you're writing a blog note, what's the right size so that the reader goes through the article? It really depends. So I think for it to be valuable to Google, I'd make it at least about 300 to 500 words, or longer if you can. The main thing is to keep the most important information at the top of the content, so in your introduction, and then have very clear titles so people know how to kind of go down through it. But I also understand you don't want to be writing like hundreds and hundreds of pages every week. So I would stick to probably 500 words. But if you want to write more, you want to write, 1,000 or 1,500 words, then absolutely do that. People will carry on reading if they want to. Just make sure it's very clear sections and a very clear introduction so that people do get what they need at the beginning, and then maybe add some call to actions throughout the text in case they kind of get bored. But yeah, I would say for Google, best practice is 300 to 500 words for a blog post. And then, oh, sorry, yeah, I didn't write another page for schema. Yeah, so I guess my top tip is to go to answer the public, to find out what questions people are asking. Use Reddit, Quora, all those kind of questions, and then just type in a few questions around your brand and your product into Google and see what comes up next. Okay, so I think that's at the end of the presentation. Please feel free to ask me any more live questions. I will just go on to videos so you can see me. Yeah, so I'll just hang around in the chat for a little bit longer. So we had the new hotel website in Bath. Oh, that's great. Yeah, if you send me a message later on, I can always help you with some tips. I've actually got an article coming on the website about how to write hotel content, so I'll send that to you as well if you just connect to me on LinkedIn. Yeah, that'd be great. And then yeah, so I'd say with the hotel website, have sections. So have home, and then really describe what people are getting from that hotel. So is it history? Is it that it's very conveniently located? What are the key things that people book the hotel for? Key reasons people book the hotel. Break it down into rooms and then really describe what the rooms are like and what you can get in the rooms. Add in some kind of locations, and then you can have some external links to things they might like to do nearby to the hotel, and then add in, like, I don't know, spa, restaurants, bars, whatever else might be around. So yeah, okay, another question from Rita. Is it worth writing in several languages the same content? I think so. It is really important. It really depends on your audience. So Google Analytics can tell you exactly where your customers are coming from, and so that can help you understand where there might be any gaps in your content. It's difficult because obviously then you have to hire somebody to write it in a different language, and I would never use Google Translate for a website. I would always use someone in that country to translate it. So I think it's difficult. I think you probably need a separate site for that language if you want to. So if you have a budget, then yes, by all means, and you can see a lot of people come from that come to your site who speak that language, then yes, it's really, really important. But I think if you know that most people speak English and you don't have a huge budget for that, there's other things you can do with that budget. And I think that's probably also maybe have a look for the keywords on Google and see how many there are in each language, and that can kind of help. Okay, how often should I add content to the website? So I would say if you're limited with resources, probably once a week. If you have time, probably 3 times a week. I know it's really difficult. I am a clear case of the cobbler's shoes because I have 150 writers that work for me and we never add any content to our website. And actually now I'm just using the coronavirus to rewrite our website. So yeah, I think it's really difficult. But yeah, if you can and you want to get the traction, I would say at least once a week. And it'll be interesting how quickly it gets going. Once you write a couple of articles, I think you'll start to find that you have more and more ideas, and you get more interested in it and you want to really hone that skill. Okay. What are the key elements to check with our SEO agency to make sure this is in line with the hotel brand and actually working? Okay, yeah. So I think when you work with an SEO agency, the most important thing I think is to set the KPIs when you start working together, if you can. So your KPIs need to be around your business goals. So if your goal is to just drive revenue to the bottom line, then obviously that's really important. And you can kind of look into a multi-attribution model, which will show you exactly how many visitors SEO is bringing to the website, and then how people are kind of going through, because they might come in through SEO, depending on the lead time of your product. They might come in through SEO, then kind of have a look around, go away, follow you on social media, then come through social media, or go to your newsletter, then come through the newsletter. So it's really important, if you can, to try and implement a multi-attribution model. But if not, I think time on site is quite important. You want to probably keep it between some parameters. You don't want people on the site for so long that it's clear that they're struggling to make pages load, or they can't actually understand what it is you do, and they're spending a long time trying to figure that out. I would try and see how many repeat visitors you have. If you're building brands, you probably just want people to be on the website, enjoying it, clicking through a few pages. So you want your bounce rate to be low, and you want your time on site to be fairly high. And yeah, if you want it to be increasing your bottom line, I would just look at conversion rate, revenue, profit. I guess you want to drive the highest basket value. So if you've got a few products, then maybe just look at which products are selling. Yeah, if you want to drop me a message on LinkedIn, I can give you a bit more advice, because I think it really depends on your business goals. So I think you have to be very clear on those first, and then understand what it is you want the content to be doing for you. If we're doing content for social media, how do we make sure post is SEO optimized? So probably just have like one keyword. Yeah, I think I would say SEO for social media is really difficult. I would probably focus on trying to just make it a really good post that will resonate with your audience, and obviously use hashtags to try and help people find you, use locations, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's difficult with SEO because it's such a short post. So just try and pop in a few relevant keywords or key phrases, but definitely use hashtags. And if you want to find more more useful hashtags, kind of just type in your main hashtag, then go to just type in your hashtag to Instagram, and it will kind of come up with similar hashtags, and it will show you the volume. Or kind of look at what other people who are posting under that hashtag are also hashtagging. What is schema exactly? So schema is a system that Google uses to understand what is a question. So a lot of people have an FAQ page, and they'll add schema to their website. I can try to send a link to an article explaining schema, so you can kind of understand what it is. But it's basically Google's way of trying to help answer questions for customers. And it basically shows the search engine, this is the question, this is the answer, because it's not a human. It can't really understand context yet, like a human can. So I think, yeah, it just shows the search engines that you are answering questions, and you do have questions on your site, and then that this is the answer to that question. Oh yeah, sure. Back to the schema slide. I feel there's a need to adjust content for different social media platforms, which is rather time consuming. Do you use any tools? Yeah, it is. It's time consuming. I think what I tend to do is pick out. So I'll write an article, and then I'll pick out what I want to say for, let's say, LinkedIn, because I know that needs to be the longest. LinkedIn or Facebook need to be the longest content about that. So then I'll pick out those key bits for that, and kind of write around what the article's about. Then I'll kind of shorten it for Twitter or Instagram. And it's really difficult, and that's why we tell our clients that it's probably best to concentrate on one or two social media platforms at a time. I find Hootsuite's very good for scheduling. I don't know if there's particularly a tool that helps you decide what to write for each social platform, just because I mean, automated content just isn't a thing yet. But yeah, so I think my top tip would be just try and focus on a couple of social media platforms if you can, to make it a bit easier. And then yeah, just try and schedule it when you can, so that when you do have time, you're doing it then, and you're not kind of rushing to do it. Okay, any other questions? I think so. I'll just quickly go back through schema, because someone asked me to go back to that page. So as I said, 8% of queries to Google are now questions, and so Google has tried to kind of come up with something to help their users and stay relevant. So schema just is a bit of coding behind your website, which shows, and it's quite easy to add on. I think there's a way you can just do it through WordPress, and then other CMSs probably have something, or your website developer will probably be able to tell you how to do it. And yeah, so it just tells Google that this is a question, this is an answer, and that really allows you to get picked up for those question and answer snippets. And then it kind of can see, okay, this website and this website have got this question, and then they've got these 10 other questions, and it will kind of help Google to understand what people are asking about in the same kind of, around the same topic. So yeah, that kind of helps them have those little grey boxes underneath with all the different questions. So yeah, I hope that's been helpful. I think there's loads and loads of schema articles. I think Yoast do a really good one. I'll try to send them to Rita, and then maybe we can put them in some notes at the bottom of the webinar to just help everyone with that. But yeah, I think that's the end of the questions now. I'll just see if there's any more live ones. Nope. Yeah, so I think we'll probably end this here, will we, Rita? Yeah, okay, sorry. How do you come up with new ideas for content? So yeah, I think look at your competitors, see what they're doing. Obviously don't copy them, give your readers a take on what kind of questions they're answering. Looking through keywords is really helpful, because it will show you what people are researching around that topic. Social media is really good. You can just kind of get a feel for what people's interests are, and just see if you can make some links between your product and those topics. What else? Answer the Public's really good, because it kind of shows you all the different questions and lots of related questions, so that should hopefully help. And I think once you start thinking about it, it kind of snowballs. So I just keep a notes full on my phone, which just has all my content ideas, and then when I've got time, I sit down and write them. So I think that kind of thing is useful. How can I come out with an innovative article around COVID-19? Okay, so firstly, don't call it COVID-19. Most people are calling it coronavirus, so that will help you come up in the search results if that's what you want to do. And then I think about how your product really can help people at this time. So I was kind of in the same situation as you, and I was thinking, how is content helpful? And I know communications is obviously really important, but actually what I think I have to say is that I manage a huge remote team, so I can help people with some tips on how to manage a remote team, even though it's not really to do with what I'm selling through my business. I think something like that could be helpful. I think the main thing is to have something to say. So are you doing anything different? Can you really help your clients? Are you offering one of your products at a reduced rate because of coronavirus? And why? And do you have any great case studies or testimonials around that? Yeah, what could you help people with? I think that's the main sentiment behind brands at the moment. People just want something that that's helpful. They don't want all this noise, and I think if you look at the backlash celebrities are getting at the moment, people, it's about ordinary everyday people, and it's about being helpful, and it's about all going through the same horrific thing. So yeah, I think if you can think of anything around that, then that would be really helpful for people. Do you have any other questions? Okay, perfect. I think that's all. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Thank you so much, Rita, for making this amazing community and inviting me to talk. I really hope that was helpful. You can add me on LinkedIn and just ask me any specific questions. I'm very happy to help. Or I'm on Twitter, Charli_proof. Or you can go to my website, proofcontent.com, and there's a contact form on there that will just go straight through to my email. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you have a good day.